Welcome back to episode 26. Today we're going to start the episode by reading an email from Seth Godin. I subscribe to his newsletter. Here we go. It's got to do with education, which is something that I deeply care about. Education and learning, to be precise. Education is a model based on scarcity, compliance, and accreditation. It trades time, attention, and money for a piece of paper that promises value. But we learn in ways that have little to do with how mass education is structured. If you know how to walk, write, read, type, have a conversation, perform surgery, or cook an egg, it's probably because you practiced and explored and experienced, not because it was on a test. Exactly. Coming from a person who is completely self-taught, yes, I did have very good mentors and they helped shape how I approach problem solving. But most of the things I've had to learn on my own. And being self-taught also means that you're not giving tests and seeking out certificates. You're basically just challenging yourself on a day-to-day basis, and your learning is being compounded over time. Now, the reason this is so interesting is because the email that came right after this one was from Neville, and the subject line goes, "We're at the beginning of an infinity of knowledge." So I also subscribe to Neville's newsletter, and it's funny that these emails were sitting right next to each other in my inbox. So Neville's email is basically a transcription of a podcast. So Brett, some person he's talking to, the difference with the beginning of infinity is you're getting a worldview. You're not getting the standard take from physicists about how to understand quantum theory. You're not getting the standard take of how to understand knowledge from philosophers. And you're certainly not getting the standard take of how to understand mathematics from mathematicians. Deutsch is an expert in all three areas. Neville, what's at the core of the worldview? Brett, Deutsch worldview is that reality is comprehensible. It's a deeply rationally optimistic worldview that believes in good scientific explanations and progress. Of course, I'm not going to read the whole email. We understand things using good explanations and constantly replace old theories with better ones. With all the changes happening in the space of education, from independent teachers and educationists finding and building their own platforms, to Google creating certificate programs which are 6 months long. After scrolling on Twitter for a bit, I found a very interesting thread from Sean Puri. So Sean Puri has sold his startup to Twitch, and he also hosts a podcast called My First Million. So everyone seems to think Clubhouse is the next big thing, but I think it's going to fail. Here's how I think it all goes down. I'll post a thread in the description below. I'm not going to read the whole thread because it's really long. I'm just going to pull out some of the best parts. He goes on to say that, everyone, especially the founders at Clubhouse, are celebrating opening champagne bottles. They're worth more than $1 billion, but there's a fundamental catch in Clubhouse. If you look deeper, retention is slipping. It's not terrible, but new users aren't sticking around the same way those early users were. You call a team meeting with your inner circle. The team looks at the charts. They are a little concerned, but still feeling good. We just have to talk to our users. You do that and find that Clubhouse really has two totally different use cases: content and chillin'. So he goes on to say that there's some really good content and some shitty content. But the idea being that when you open up Instagram or Twitter or any of those different platforms, within 7 seconds, you are transported into a universe of infinite content. When you log on to Clubhouse, you don't get immersed into amazing content. You have to find a room, and then based on finding that room, is it an interesting conversation or not? It's not the same. Content creators are happy, but retention doesn't improve. Why not? You have a bad case of the interestingness problem. When a user opens up an app, IG, YouTube, TikTok, they need juicy content within 7 seconds or they bounce. This is the interestingness problem. IG, TikTok, etc. have millions of pieces of content to choose from. So their algorithms get really, really good at finding juicy content for you right away. But Clubhouse is live. I want to access content on my own time. versus show up to a live conversation, which is fun, but once in a while, not all the time. I like to do things at my own speed and pace. So I agree with this perspective, this one little catch of the interestingness problem. Also, if you've been seeing my face for the second time, third time, fourth time, subscribe and like this video. What's a small win you've recently had that you're proud of? Small win is I didn't feel like recording a video, but I recorded a video anyways, and I felt good afterwards. Anytime I try to do something, I just have so much resistance internally, but I have to fight it every time and still do that thing. Okay, let's read the next tweet. You think clearest when you stop worrying. I find that, when you're mad, you're angry, and you're not in the right headspace, don't take that decision. Don't reply to that email. Take your time, sleep over it. Go do something else. When you're in the right state of mind, then sit down with a clear head and do that thing that you need to do. I find myself, if I'm really happy, I might commit to something that I did not want to do. And when I'm angry, say something that I will regret later. It works both ways. Let's read the next tweet. There are two types of people in this world. People who feel they need to learn everything there is to know about something before they give it a shot, so they rarely, if ever, shoot. And people who figure it out as they go and take a lot of shots and hit sometimes. This tweet comes from somebody who is in the startup mindset. Whereas if you look at somebody who comes from the healthcare line, you don't want somebody to figure out heart surgery on you as they're learning. You want somebody who's experienced to do heart surgery on you. So the mindset of starting something and not being in your own way, I totally get it. It makes sense. This advice is super helpful for people who lack the discipline or who are just giving themselves excuses to start something. But I would not take away from the people who spend and invest their time and energy to learn something before doing it. Even in vaccines, for example, there's so much research, testing that goes on before it's given to the mass public. Yes, this tweet is valid in certain contexts, but it is not a one pill solution to everyone's problem. Also think about musicians, other artists who practice their craft, they get good at it, then they put out an album and boom. Yes, they're over time learning and perfecting their craft, but they have to be good at a certain point before releasing that piece of work. And I know that this person is also a writer and also from the startup background. So as a writer, you could publish a blog daily, but you use that momentum of writing a daily blog to work up to the muscles, the mental muscles needed to write a book. So you're not putting out a shitty book every few weeks. What you're doing is you're getting yourself in the habit of doing the big lifting by picking up smaller weights. Okay, let's end today's episode here. I will see you tomorrow.